ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवांसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति नः इन्दो विद्रशवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नः तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः देवं नारायणं नत्वा सर्वदोषविवर्जितं परिपूर्णं गुरुंश्चान् गीतार्थमक्षामि लेशतः. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening for friends and satsangis who have joined for Vishvarupa Dharshana Yoga Part 5. So we have been doing this Vishvarupa Dharshana Chinthana for almost 3 months now because it's such an important chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So I'm going to hand it over to Prakash ji to take us through the rest of the Gita along with Neeta ji and Pratibha ji and Jiva ji, JV ji and the rest of the team. Over to you, Prakash ji. You're muted, Prakash ji.
Oh, I muted just now.
Yeah.
1 second. Let me move into presentation mode.
Is your slide open, Prakash ji? You have to.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I think I need to first share, and then this one. I hope you're able to see this, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you do, get your presentation on, and then we are ready to go.
1 second. That is the presentation.
So at the right bottom.
Oh, right bottom.
bottom.
Yeah. This one. Okay. Is it clear now?
Yes, Prakash.
Okay. Hari Om. ब्रह्मांड गुरव साक्षादिष्टम दैवं श्रियपति आचार्य श्रीमदाचार्य सन्तु मे जन्म जन्मनि हयग्रीव हयग्रीव हयग्रीवेति वादिनं नरं मुञ्चन्ति पापानि दरिद्र्यमयोषितः पूज्याय राघवेन्द्राय सत्यमृताय जपतां कल्पवृक्षाय नमतां कामधेनुवे लक्ष्मीनारायणं नत्वा पूर्णबोधान् गुरूनपि कुर्म कृष्णगीताया भाष्यात् युक्तार्थसङ्ग्रहम् हरिः ओम्. Namaskars to all the Guru and especially to Jaitirturu because it's his Purva Aradhana, and to everybody in this audience, my Sahapatis, GBG, Venkiji, and our Guru, Keshwara Radhavitri, and Madhusudinji Guruji. So everybody, after doing Namaskars, going to do the 11th chapter, verses 47 to 51. So basically, what we saw in our previous sessions was Arjuna was describing the Vishvarupa, whatever he was able to see according to his capacity. He explained everything. And then we said he had fear. I will come to that in later. And then he wanted to see his actual human-like form. So why he had the fear? All those details we'll see in a bit. So after Arjuna, he wants to come back for a normal state. Then Krishna starts explaining, and Krishna starts from this shloka, that is the 47th. Krishna says, "Maya prasannena tava Arjuna idam rupam param darshitam atma yoga," and he keeps on going like that. Let's see one by one. So this is the context. I did not explain, the whole, whatever was explained. I think we are all current on that. Krishna, the reason, Krishna starts off saying that he wants to increase his bhakti to Arjuna. The question is, Arjuna did not get bhakti? He saw this entire universal cosmic form. He should have already got bhakti, right? But Krishna, reiterates. In Bhagavad Gita, we have seen in many places that the reiteration takes place. It is to emphasize that, certain things are very important. we need to emphasize it, 2 or more times to show the importance of that. So Krishna, in order to increase the bhakti to Arjuna, and through Arjuna for us, because our Yogita is much lesser, we see through the eyes of Arjuna, the universal form. So to increase our bhakti also, Krishna says that this is not something which we can see. It is a very rare thing to see. So Krishna explains the rarity of this. The Vishwa, the word Vishwa, we have seen before in Vishnu Sahasranam also. It has multiple meanings. We'll see a couple of meanings of Vishwa. Vishwam Rupam Yasya. The whole world is his Pratima. In Bhagavata, we see that in I think it's the second canto, the entire world is his Pratima. Even I think in fifth canto of Bhagavata, it says that the entire, all the dvipas, everything, it's all Pratima of the Lord. But our Tattva is very clear that the Pratima itself is not God. So it's still Veda, but again, the whole world is Pratima, meaning his Adhisthana is there. The whole world is Adhisthana. Then he's the one who shows the entire universe. And that's what, the entire chapter. He has shown the entire universe to Arjuna and through Arjuna to us. So if the Vishwa, then the question arises, is Vishwa form the ultimate form then? What about Krishna form? So this is going to be a question in the mind of ordinary folks. That one is ultimate, another is not ultimate. So Krishna, but only Brahma, the great jivas like Brahma and the Parashukla, they only know that all forms are the same. So all these things are being explained by Krishna through this sloka. And also Vishwarama, Acharya in Tatparya says that Vishwam means Purna Gunaha. So that means it is the Paripurna. Is the complete, it's showed the entire universe. So Vishwa has the different meanings, and that is the Krishna is trying to explain that you have seen the entire the entire cosmos and so many activities through my form. So it's my form is the complete form. And also the precursor to that is they all similar? Yes, they are similar, but depending on the jiva's capacity, they can see in one form everything. For example, the Brahma can see the entire universe inside when we see Krishna. That is his capacity. Then the thing is, in sloka 20 and 23 previously, we have seen that the entire world has seen the entire three worlds, the people in the three worlds have seen this cosmic form also. Then the next question is, have all of them seen the same way? If Arjuna has seen, then the sloka very clearly says that 20th and 20th sloka, everybody has seen everybody is seeing this in cosmic form, whoever is having the yogita, then are they all seeing the same way? So for that, and Acharya gives the quote, everything. But before that, Krishna says in the sloka, Tvad anyena na drishtapurvam. Before this, other than you, nobody has seen the cosmic form like what you have seen. So Acharya comes to a rescue, and because of this knowledge of Taratamya, the hierarchy of souls, Acharya quotes from Brahmanda Purana very appropriate verse saying that, hey, look, what this means is anybody below Arjuna will see according to their capacity, or they may not even see. So he gives a quote saying that before you, Brahma has seen. And what Brahma has seen, 100 of that Arjuna, Shiva has seen. And whatever Shiva has seen, 100 of that Indra has seen, and then according to their capacity people have seen before you. So, Tadanyena, other than you, before, nobody has seen, doesn't mean that it is like that. You should not take literal meaning. You have to go and you have to go with reconcile with other scriptural statements that people before you have seen, but they are of higher yogyata. And also another thing here to note is Arjuna is Indra's avatara. That means before Arjuna, Indra himself has seen this form, and whatever Indra has seen, Arjuna has also seen, because they are in the Arjuna is avatar of Indra. The Arjuna also has seen the same thing what Indra has seen. So this one is very important to say, the distinction which our Acharya shows because of the Taratamya concept. But if you look at the other our contemporary schools of thought, Advaita, they all has the same view that other than Arjuna, no one else saw this form. Because of Srimad Acharya's greatest gift of Taradamya, we are able to understand the shloka in the correct way. I just gave a picture. It may not be very very good appropriate one. How the clarity of seeing. This is a very surveillance camera. How we can zoom in and see. So probably depending on our capacity, you can see with more clarity. I just gave a picture. It may not be so appropriate. Now, the next question is, if people below Arjuna, they want to see the same way as Arjuna saw, is there a way is there a mean to see whatever Arjuna saw? So to answer that, Krishna is saying, hey, Naveda yajna adhyanena danena kriyabhir na tapobhir ugre evam rupa shakke aham niloka dushtum tadanyena kuru pravira. No one other than you, meaning people below Arjuna, can see whatever you have seen by performing spiritual studies, by undertaking spiritual studies, by doing yajnas like Agnihotra yajnas, havans, by observing vratas like Chandrayana vrata, meaning it's a very austere vrata, or you give danas, you give gifts, cows, grains, homes, gold, etc. If you do all these things, then will you get the yogyata or the capacity to see the same vision Arjuna saw, the cosmic form of Lord? Can you do? Means Krishna says no. So then the question here is, if that is the case, Dushtva Adbhutam Rupam. If, what is that say? If you don't interpret like this, then it will contradict the previous version. People who saw the same roop, then they cannot, if they also saw the same way as Arjuna saw, then it will contradict. So that is why Krishna here, he wants to clarify, saying that even though they saw according to the people below Arjuna, they saw according to their capacity, they did see who had the blessings of Krishna, but they only saw according to their capacity, and they cannot step up the ladder and see what Arjuna saw by doing all these things. So that is the clarity Krishna is giving, saying that not everybody can see the way Arjuna saw. So if you take our contemporary schools of thought, Advaita views the same thing. Other than Arjuna, nobody can see like this. But Vishita Advaita, in their explanation, they have opinion that you have to have Ekanta Bhakti. If you have Ekanta Bhakti, then you can possibly see what Arjuna saw. And then our view is very clear, which we just saw. Okay. So after this, Krishna is saying that, I know you are terrified by looking at this form. So I want to calm you down, and I want to show my human like form. So he says that I showed you this Goram Rupam. Vimudabhavo Dushtva Rupam Goram. Goram Rupam here means Samhrutram. That is, we saw his form, Arjuna saw his form. He had the Damstrakarala, he had this canine type teeth, he had this wide open mouth. Everybody was going inside him, and people are getting killed. He saw all those things. And then now he was, Veta means fear, he was terrified by this. He saw this everything in infinite, infinite head and eyes, etc. He says that don't get confused by this, because there is a potential that you can get bewildered by this. So you don't get confused. Because so he calms Arjuna and he says that I will show you my human-like form so that you can come back to your senses. The question is, the Parashukla Traya, that is the people who are higher than Arjuna, above Shiva, Vayu, Brahma, their consorts like Saraswati and Bharati Devi, did they get fear? I just previously when I was introduced this whole thing, do people get fear? The one way of looking at this is Taittiriya Upanishad. In Taittiriya in the second Valli, it says that Vishasmat Vatah Pavate Visho Deti Suryaha Vishatma Agnischa Indrascha Mrutyurdhavidi Panchami. The five people, they get this fear. For example, out of fear, the wind blows. Out of the fear, the sun shines. Like that, Agni lights up. Then the Mrityu Devata runs. Is fear a good thing or a bad thing? So for that, in our Rayaro, when he explains this, he says that Vidushaha Jnaninaha Amanvanasya Ajnanasya Bhayam Bhavati. That is, both people who are knowledgeable or have the correct tattva knowledge, and also the Ajnanina, ignorant people, both have fear. But there is a difference. Etavan Visheshaha. Vidusha, people who have the right knowledge, for them, the God, Kinchit Bhayakrit, he gives some fear, Paschat Ayavagati, then he removes the fear. Like what the case of Arjuna. Ajnasya Samsara Bhayakrit. For ignorant people, he will give the samsara, mean like how it is, the fear is there in samsara, he gives them the fear. Then Viparitagnyasya tu Mahavayakrit. The people who have the Viparitagnyala, I mean the total confused knowledge, for them, he gives them the ultimate fear. That is why I think, in down also that this Rupam gives, some people were seeing with the, some people were seeing with both the mixed feelings. It's all, that is God's, one of the, what you can say, it's also a grace, we can say, that he gives the fear and also he removes the fear, just to show that his opulence, and to show that he's the Almighty. So that's one way of looking at why did Arjuna get fear, and also did Parashukla got fear. I mean, I will leave it to the as for further discussion. But based on all this, whatever we have seen so far in our Upanishad teachings on all those things, the Parashukla will not get fear. Other people get fear, and the reason is we have just saw from the Rayaru's the explanation for the Taittiriya Upanishad. Then after this, after Krishna says this, Dhritarashtra, who is getting all this, the whole cosmic form through Sanjaya, he becomes curious. He wants to know what happened after this. Sanjaya says that after showing all this, the cosmic form, Arjuna, he had the fear. Then he gets, in order to calm him down, he's showing the human form. Here, the Sambodhana of Vasudeva is also very appropriate here. we have seen this Vasanat Vasudevasya Vasitam Te Bhuvanatrayam or Jagatrayam Sarvabhuta Nivasosi Vasturamostute. So the name Vasudeva means he is one who is there in all the worlds. Like we saw before, Vishvarupa Yasya Vishvarupa, the whole world is inside him, and he's the Pratima of the entire world. Like that, God is there everywhere, and he showed the Vishvarupa, meaning he showed the entire universe. So Sanjaya, saying Vasudeva is very, very appropriate. That's what I think. Then the very, very key word here is Swakam Rupa. That is the Vishvarupa different from Krishna Rupa? Because some of the other schools of thought say that Vishwarupa is Pararupa and Krishna Rupa is Aparupa. Means the Para means the ultimate Rupa is Vishwarupa and non-ultimate is Krishna, with ordinary, something like that. This is how our ordinary people, ignorant people, we may think that they are all different, but no. The word Swakam is also very interesting because Swa means independent, Kam means Sukam. That is, our definition of God is one who has infinite intelligence and infinite bliss. So God is showing his own Rupa in different forms. So Swakam Rupam is his own Rupa is showing. It is a different Rupa in the Vishwarupa. Krishna is a different, but both are same. There is no difference in God's Rupas. They are all the same. So he says that's why this word is also very significant into conveying that they both are the same. They are not different. Because if Krishna Rupa is his own form and Vishwarupa is then Vishwarupa is not his own form, or is it or Vishwarupa is Param ultimate Rupa and Krishna Rupa is an ordinary form, they will be illogical. Why? Because he says that Drashtum Ichchami Tava Rupam. I want to see your Rupa, I mean Krishna Rupa. That means, are they different? No, they will be illogical. So that is why this Acharya, is very clearly, explains that, hey, you have to understand this particular word very, very carefully because you should not differentiate between God's Rupas. And then, is it something Acharya comes up on his own? No. Always Acharya gives you some quote. And again, from Brahmanda Purana, he quotes this Smriti Vachya. Swavat kriyati swakam rupam, Vishwarupam, Ajnanam, Swarupat na darshayati. For Ajnani people, the Vishwarupa, they don't see as his own Rupa. Okay, they see the distinction between this Rupa and that Rupa for ordinary people. So, that's what he says. Anyata dashnupi te rupam. Otherwise, I want to see your Rupa becomes illogical. And also he says that para avara vivedastu mugdha dushtam apekshatu. That is the para. Vishwarupa is para ultimate. Krishna Rupa is avara, means it's of not ultimate. This vibheda, this distinction, mugdha means one who are very ignorant, or we can say less than intelligence. Only for keeping that in mind, that it is seen like that. But Praturbhava Swarupana Vishwarupasya Prabhu. That is Praturbhava Rupa. That is Krishna is Avatara, right? Praturbhava means Avatara. So the Krishna Rupa, which is Avatara Rupa, and the Vishwarupa, they are all the same only. So this is what, and he says that Vyaktirhi Ajnapeksha, this, keeping in mind the people who cannot understand this, for them, that kind of distinction, apparent distinction, but there is no distinction. So this is what Krishna wants to say, and Acharya has explained that. And again, Mahatma means Maha, great, perfect Atman, Lord. So that's that is a description of Lord here. Then finally, Arjuna says that, hey, Krishna previously told that I will show you my human-like form. And Krishna now he says that Krishna shows his human-like form. Then Arjuna says that I saw now Drishtva idam manushrupam tava saumyam janardana. I saw your calm form, your two-armed form. Then my mind has become calm. I become very pleased, and now I am ready to go to the and go wage a war, etc. So here also Acharya gives, he gives a statement: Kinchit manushavad drishyamanatvat manusham. If people, might think that Manusham meaning he is human. No. Acharya says that no, he is human-like, not human. Is very, very important, because that is why Acharya stresses this point to say that, hey, just because you're seeing Krishna as a human, like a human being, doesn't mean he's human being. He's still God, and he's no different from the Vishvarupa. But this form is a very saumya, very pleasing form. And by looking at that form, Arjuna is pleased, and his mind is calm now, and he becomes back to his senses. Then if you the question here is the Acharya is quoting this because if you accept Krishna as human, then the previous aparatva, is not aparatva. All those things will come into play. So that is why Acharya remains and says that both the forms are the same. So that concludes. But there was a question, or rather, interesting discussion last time. After seeing Vishvarupa Darshana, Teneva Chaturbhujena, that shloka comes, before, in the, I think, previous verses. The Chaturbhuja version was seen by Vasudeva and so many other people. But there is no mention in Mahabharata or in the text that Arjuna saw the Chaturbhuja Rupa. But logically, we can see that first he sees the Vishwarupa Darshana, then the Chaturbhuja Rupa Darshana, and then, it progresses like that. And then finally he sees the Manusha, like a human-like form. So if we take that, then there will be no virodha or no contradiction, saying that, hey, how can you say previously I want to see your Chaturbhuja Rupa, but actually Krishna is in two-armed Rupa. So after seeing the Vishwarupa Darshana, then he sees the Chaturbhuja Rupa, that is a four-armed form. Then that whole thing, ends there, that form of Lord, vision of that form of Lord. And then he sees the human-like form. If we take like that, then it might be very logical. So that is something which, I wanted to say here. So this concludes. And then what is that we can take home from all these things? To achieve His grace, again, bhakti from correct knowledge. This is very, very important, because we have seen this so many times. Correct knowledge, that is, all rupas of the Lord are the same. There is no difference. None of the rupas are not different. And in one rupa, you can see, according to the capacity, one rupa, another rupa is in one form, you can see multiple forms inside the same rupa. All those things. So that knowledge of God is very, very important to achieve His grace. It doesn't mean that we should not undertake scriptural study, adhana, tapas, and all. They should be done with bhakti, but according to our capacity, God will grace us. So I think that's what the take home from these couple of shlokas. So, and again, the Gita shlokas coming down in the 18th chapter, Manmana Bhava Mat Bhakto Matyaji Mam Namaskuru Mamesha Satyam. So surrender to Krishna, and then His grace will be there with us. So with that, I conclude this small presentation. Any mistakes, it's mine. Any good things which I said, it's all through Guru's grace. And namaskar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prakashji. Super slides and very, very informative. So I'm just thinking, do we take 5 to 10 minutes Q&A at this point, or move to Neetaji straight away, or we do Q&A at the end? So what's the view here, please? Quick feedback.
Go for a Q&A, Madhuji.
Okay, so you want to do a Q&A here and then move to Prakashji. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so open for Q&A, 5-10 minutes. Who wants, anybody please contribute? Yeah, Anandji, go for it.
Namaskar. Very, very good information given, Prakashji. Thank you very much. It was very clear that na danena, na yagnena, na tapasa, na kriyabhir, and all that. With all that, you are not going to achieve that rupa which you saw just now. But looking at Dhritarashtra, he did neither of them. He did none of them. So yet he had an opportunity to see that Vishvarupa. It may not be same as what Arjuna saw, but yet Dhritarashtra saw that cosmic form of Lord. So how do we reconcile here?
Unmute Prakashji.
Sorry. So, Dhritarashtra is a very good question. Dhritarashtra is, first of all, is a Sattvic Jiva. Because of some previous karmas, he was blinded. But of course, on the other flip side of it, Dhritarashtra was able to see through the eyes of Sanjaya. But again, how much he was able to see, as you rightly pointed out, is according to his yogyata. But again, we have to also take not this janma's tapas or dana, but the previous janmas, right? Whatever he has accumulated in the past, in fact, that will come to his rescue to see this form. So that is the only explanation we can give. But again, his bandhana and his attachment to all the Duryodhana and all his own sons would have also reduced what he could have actually been seen. That's also another way of looking at it. So even if you don't do these things, doesn't mean that you don't have the capacity, right? You would have accumulated so many things in your past karmas. So that would have given you this opportunity to see this rupa. That's what I think.
Very interesting question, Anandji. Thank you, Prakashji. We'll get others also. So one of the other things, Anandji, let's not forget that Dhritarashtra was a Gandharva. So he is Gandharva by the name Dhritarashtra himself, who comes down along with his consort, is all the divine place of that. So he is an exalted soul to start with. And then there is a cosmic, there is an event that is going on in Mrityuloka, which is the Mahabharata, and the history behind that is we have done it in Mahabharata, Tatparya Nirnaya, where TSRG has very clearly explained to us how this whole folks come. So if you go back to understand who Dhritarashtra is, then he's a Gandharva, he's an exalted soul. So we may not have that particular confusion, I think, also. So I concur with Prakashji. Anybody else? Very, very important question.
I don't think he had any bhakti towards Krishna. Maybe whatever he had accumulated as a Gandharva or as a Sattvic soul, probably that bhakti contributed it.
Gita ji, you were going to say something.
Yes, yes, the past one. It's the number of janmas. I think if you take in a numerical way, it's how much you add now or how much you divide, isn't it? So if you're already up there, you might have gone down a bit, but not enough to go right below. So you may be very low, starting at minus whatever number, 10, for example, and then you're showing a lot of bhakti. You see that right now in this janma, but you're starting at minus 10. Even if you collect another whatever 9-10 points, you're not going to come to the positive, you're not going to reach to the positive end, if that makes sense, if you take it as a number, and all the janmas, previous janmas together and to now. Does that explain that? So, I mean, Adyam Manavat as well might be coming in here, isn't it? I don't know about Dhritarashtra's other bit, but whether he had to play this role of Dhritarashtra in Mahabharata. So.
Sure, yeah.
When when he couldn't sleep, he doesn't go for anyone else. He goes to Vidura to get that Vidura Niti. He could have gone elsewhere if he's not a Sattvic Jiva. So he is a Sattvic soul and he goes to Vidura to get that Vidura Niti somehow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, couple of comments just for our own reminder about Vishvarupa, Chaturbhuja Rupa, and then the Krishna's two-armed forms. And as Prakashji very, very succinctly pointed out, there is absolutely no difference between the infinite forms of the Lord, his avatara rupas, and so on. And every time in the Upanishads, this is what is coming, right? He who thinks that the forms of the Lord are different from each other will go to the deepest of hells, which our Yama has very, very clearly told Nachiketa in Katha Upanishad that we need to be very careful not to distinguish between the Vishwarupa, the Avatara Rupas, the Vyuha forms of the Lord, and also the Antaryami, Bimba Shakshatkara, our Bimba Rupa. Each one of us have our own Bimba Rupa, right? So they are all non-different from each other. How is this possible? It is possible because of Visesha. So that again, we should never forget. How is this all possible? It is through the concepts of Vishesha, which is again one of the greatest contributions of Srimad Acharya in philosophy. So that Visheshas, through Visheshas, these things are possible. Is one point I just wanted to stress. And also, Prakashji, when we had this discussion about Parashukla Trayas, so I just want to open up for discussion and get from our satsangi. So Prakashji was saying that Indra got, not Indra, Arjuna got scared when he saw the Vishwarupa with all the folks, getting stuck between Lord's teeth and being swallowed. The universe was being destroyed, and Arjuna saw all this, and he was, he got scared. He gets scared often. In chapter 1 also, he got scared with the same emotional reaction, and in chapter 11 also, he gets the same kind of reaction. So do Parashukla Trayas would have, how would they be? So just want to open it up for our own contemplation and discussion. So anybody wants to say, of course, in Arjuna, there is a flag, right? And in the flag is the Hanumanta. Hanuman is there all watching this battlefield, and Hanuman is also having that Vishvarupa dharshana that is going on there. How would that Hanumanta would have felt when he has seen this? So what is the view here?
I remember TSRG telling once this about this Bhima and Arjuna, when Arjuna loses Abhimanyu and when Bhima loses Ghatotkacha, how both of them react. And Arjuna is with full of grief, and but Bhima, he says, become tall and then fall on the ground. So that amount of devotion, that complete surrender, and he knows, and I think he is the way they react there is different. And Bhima is the Mula Rupa is the Hanuman, no? His Mukhya Prana is. So Parashukla Traya is different. I think they have the faultless devotion and that supreme bhakti they have.
Yeah, thank you, Pratibhaji. Anybody else? So another thing, just sorry, we had somebody.
Sorry, it's me. It's Raj.
Yeah.
It applies to the previous question also, which was being discussed about Dhritarashtra having the Vishvarupa Darshana as opposed to more exalted souls. Souls. I mean, I think the view we can take to some extent is like, even if you're a Shatru, because you're saying a Shatru's name all the time, including in your sleep, including in your distress, you're taking his name, and that itself will give him some extra bhakti, and then his grace. As you say in Kannada, they say, I mean, many of us who know Kannada will know this. Neenako, nina hangyako, nina namada balavondiddare sako. I think that may be one of the reasons why many people got his Vishwarup Darshana, depending on the scale of their bhakti. Thank you.
Thank you, Raji. GVG.
Yes, this is going back to Madhuji's prior question about how Bhima would have reacted compared to Arjuna, right? So there is one distinction is Bhima, even in the avatara forms, has the same qualities, the same strength, and the same character. Everything is same between his Mula Rupa and Avatara Rupa. There is no difference when it comes to the Parashukla Trayas. So they keep the same amount of knowledge and bhakti and strength and valor and all that thing. But wherein Arjuna is an Amsha Rupa of Indra. Okay, that means he's not Indra yet. I mean, he doesn't have the same capacity as the Mula Rupa. So then it comes different. So how would Bhima would have seen? How would Indra in the original, in the Mula Rupa would have seen? And how would Arjuna as an Amshavatara of Indra would have seen? So the capacity itself varies. So they would have seen according to their capacity. So what Mukhya Prana as a Mula Rupa would see, Bhima would see the same thing. And then Hanumanta would have seen the same thing. But Indra in the Mula Rupa would have seen much more than Arjuna as an Amsha Rupa, because he's only a fraction of that capability of the Mula Rupa. So we have to understand that gradation as such.
Yeah, thank you, GVG. And the other one also, I just wanted to remind folks, Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam. Yeah, Yo Mam Veti Tattvataha. So Krishna has already said Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam. So when we do that, Prakash ji very beautifully pointed out about that Manusha Rupa of the Lord, Manusha Vat, as Srimad Acharya has said, like human. Because remember, God created man in his image. Yeah, the same thing that comes in Bible also. Yeah. Man did not create God in his image. Yeah. It is God who creates man in his image. Is many of the world's religion also take that view. So if you look like that, Manushavat, so that the human-like form is what Srimad Acharya has clarified for us. And that Manushavat form is Divya. Yeah, it is divine. It is Janma Karma Cha Me Divya. Janma is divine. So let us not forget that verse. So Anandji and then Prakashji.
Madhuji, besides what has been said about Parashukla Trayas, I think besides that bhakti, they have a higher clarity and the higher knowledge of Bhagavan. And with those attributes, there is absolutely no fear in them when they do see the cosmic form. That was wanted to say that.
Yeah, spot on, Anandji. Yeah, so and again, yeah, Tattva Sankhya and Tattva Viveka works of Srimad Acharya, we should never forget. So there is the clarity of the knowledge, right? As Anandji reminded, would Ramadevi be seeing the Vishvarupa of the Lord as clear as Vishnu himself? No, Spashtatvena Bedaha, as in Tattva Sankhya, Srimad Acharya has clarified, there is a Spashtatvena Bedaha, there is some difference in clarity. But for both of them, Vishnu and Lakshmi, it is just their own, it is their swabhava that they have the knowledge. Okay. Whereas for Chaturmukha and Vayu, what is the definition? Anyatra alochane sarva vishayam. Okay. For them, they have to make an effort to know and then they know it. For Lakshmi, it is her swabhava itself that she needs to know. And for Vishnu, of course, independently, it is his swabhava. So it's so beautiful that Tattva Viveka and Tattva Sankhya, where that epistemology in Vedic philosophy is so clearly given by Srimad Acharya. And the ignorance there is not a positive ignorance. The ignorance there is that their capacity is such that they cannot know Paramatma fully. Even Chaturmukha and Vayu cannot know Paramatma fully. Even Ramadevi does not know Paramatma fully. In that sense, it is a very negative concept. It is not a positive ignorance that they have. So, Anandji, I would completely concur and with what you're saying about they don't actually have that positive ignorance, and to some extent, it is ignorance that actually brings in fear. And I think our Parashukla Trayas will never have fear. But as Prakashji mentioned from Taittiriya Upanishad, which also comes in Ishavasya Upanishad, as to how all these devatas are doing their portfolios in Brahmanda. The Upanishads seem to indicate they do it because of the fear of the Lord. No, they do it. It is their bhakti and their service to the Lord. But they know that if they go against the Lord's dictation, they will be in trouble. So it is from the fear of not going against the Lord that they actually perform their duties, is how that is reconciled. But yeah, there is an ignorance comes with fear, as we all know. But Parashukla Trayas don't have that, is something that we can all accept. Neetaji?
I think Prakashji had raised first. So
Yeah, Prakashji. Yeah.
So the point GVG made, Rayuru has given this Indra has seen the same way as, Arjuna has seen the same way as Indra has seen. That is the very interesting point, Rayuru is saying. So, even though the Indra Avatara is having less, what you can say, the potential as that of his Mularupa Indra, when it comes to dharshana, they say that he has seen the same way.
Interesting, Prakashji, that maybe because he has been given that Divya Chakshus, right?
Yeah.
So that Divya Chakshus that has been given, I don't know whether that Divya Chakshus allows him to see as per his full capacity as a Indra.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
the,
know.
yeah, exactly.
It's a very interesting point. Yes, thank you.
Because I just read it out. See, in Vivruti it says, Tata Tvaya tu Indra Sharirena Drishta Purvam Ityapi Yat Tvanyena Vishayana Uprabdya. So basically, he's saying that, if I understand it right, he says that whatever you saw as Indra, you're now as Arjuna, you're seeing. That's what is, I think, he's saying. So I think, as you rightly point out, the Divya Chakshus is the reason for that. It could be, yeah.
Thank you very much. Oh, excellent discussion. So, shall we move on to Neetaji? Over to you.
Okay, let's share. Okay. Can you all see the slides?
So, Neetaji, we can see the slides, but as before, the top end, there is a bit of a
Okay.
black box. So if you
It
wanna-
will close in a minute, I think, once I start
Yeah.
talking.
Okay.
Okay. So, Hari Om, Shri Guru Pyo Namaha, Shri Krishnaya Namaha. So, before we move on to the concluding 5 shlokas of chapter 11, let's all pray to our gurus, because very recently on 29th of July, we celebrated Guru Purnima. So, we have to all pray to all our gurus. And the first guru that we know is Shri Krishna. So, Vasudeva Vasutam Devam, Kamsa Chanura Mardanam, Devaki Paramanandam, Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. So he is the first Guru, Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. And then, of course, Vyasa in his, Krishna's Rupa itself. Madhvacharya, Sri Raghavendra Swami, Jayatirtha Guru's Aradhana, Kribananji Govind Vanjanachar, and of course Madhusudan Ji, who's been guiding us as well, and all our elders, etc. So without Guru, we cannot achieve or understand or get the knowledge and then attain mukti. So let's pray to all these gurus, and I would like to invite Madhuji to just one second, to go through a few of these shlokas relating to Guru Bhakti. Over to you, Madhuji.
Sure, Neetaji, if you don't mind, just see if you can get rid of that block. Thank you very much. So, yeah, thank you very much, Neetaji, about Guru Purnima and Jayatirtha's Purva Aradhana today. So, I think it's very, very timely that we always think about Guru. Yes, in Gita, Krishna was the Guru and Arjuna was the Sishya, and he says, I want to be your Guru, please teach me. So, Arjuna has very clearly said how important Guru is. Some folks think that they have a hotline to Krishna, and our system doesn't actually say that you have anybody has a hotline to Guru, hotline to Paramatma himself. There is always a medium, and in our day-to-day life also, if we need to become an engineer, you have to go to university, you have to get a guru, and you have to read, and you have to study, and whatever they teach, and then you become an engineer. So even in the mundane world, you need a guru. So in the transempirical world, if you want to reach there, of course you need a guru. So without guru, nothing is going to happen. So our first Shashtanga Namaskara has to be to Srimad Acharya. Through his 37 granthas, without his guidance, I don't think we would be in the right frame of mind to even approach the Upanishads and the Brahma Sutra and the Gitas, the Prasthana Trayas that we have. So we owe it to our Guru for having given us the right approach to understand the Prasthana Trayas. And of course, Jayatirtha, we will come to Jayatirtha and the biography. GVG is going to talk to us about Jayatirtha, whose Purva Aradhana is today. So, but what I wanted to do is just to get us in the frame. Just think about Chandogya Upanishad 6. Yeah. So we have done that Chandogya Upanishad some 3 or 4 years ago, where we looked at chapter 6 on the 7th example as to when for that Uddalaka gives a clear explanation to Shvetaketu as to how important a guru is. And it's very, very interesting to even to recite this is very inspirational. Yata somya purusham gandharebhyo abhinadaksha aniya tam tato atijane visrujet sa yata tatra prang udang adangva pratyangva pradmayita. Okay. Abhinadaksha anito. Abhinadaksho visrishtaha tasya yata abhinahanam pramruchya prabruyet etam disham gandhara etam disham vrajet sa graman gramam pruchan pandito medavi gandharena eva upasampatyate etameva iha acharyavan purusho veda tasya tavadeva chiran yavan vimokshe Ata Sampatsyata iti. So look, Gandhara. So it's very interesting. Mahabharata time Gandhara. Gandhari is actually from Gandhara. Now that place is now is a sad place called Kandahar. But it used to be Gandhara, Gandhari. Gandhari is married to Yudhishthira, and this Yudhishthira is listening to Mahabharata through Sanjaya, and these guys are having all this Vishvarupa Darshana. It's so relevant. Where the Uddalaka says the example there is as to how a man who is being blindfolded and taken into a deep forest and then thrown in the deep forest, and he does not know where he is in this middle of the forest. Then somebody removes that blindfold, and then he needs to go back to Gandhara Desha. How is he going to go to the Gandhara Desha when he is right in the middle of this forest? He has to ask direction, right? He has to ask direction from one person to another person and say, look, how do I go to Gandhara? Some fellow is going to say, go take the right turn. And then from there, he is going to ask another person. He might say, go straight and take right. And then after 200 miles, you'll reach this and stuff. So at every point in his journey, there is somebody out there who is giving him the direction as to how he has to go back to Gandhara. That person who is there, who is giving him direction, is what Uddalaka says. Acharyavan purusho veda tasya tavadeva chiran yavan na vimokshe ata sampatsyata iti. That is the role of Acharya. That is the role of Srimad Acharya. That is the role of all the gurus that we have had. That where are we? This guy in the forest and he wants to go to Gandhara. This samsara is a forest for us. Yeah, this is like it's a jungle where all sorts of dangers everywhere and we don't know where we are going. From samsara, if you want to go to the transempirical plane, you need Acharyavan, Srimad Acharyavan Purusho Veda. He is the person who is going to guide us. Exactly what Gita also says, right, in 434. Tadviddi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. Okay. Tattva Darshinaha, Srimad Acharya gives the darshana for us, and his Sishyas asked him questions, and he's documented all the answers for us in his works. And we do the same thing when we see our Guru. We do a Sashtanga Namaskara and we ask them challenging questions to clear our doubts so that we move in the right direction. So that Guru is so celebrated both in Samaveda as well as in our Gita, and perhaps summarized very beautifully in Shvetashvatara Upanishad of Krishna Yajurveda. Yasya deve parabhakti yata deve tata gurau tasya ete katitaha I artaha prakashante mahatmanaha. Should never forget this, that the bhakti that we have to the Lord comes from the bhakti that we have to our Guru. Guru is the first person to whom we have to show our bhakti. Okay, and that Guru will hand it over to Paramatma. Tasmin apo matarishva dadati, as our Isha Upanishad has said, that matarishva dadati. Whatever things that we do, he will hand over to the Paramatma, the true messenger, the second messenger of the Vedantic system will actually hand it over to Paramatma. So that Guru Bhakti is very, very important. Once the Guru Bhakti comes, Krishna Bhakti is a given. So on that note, I just want to hand it back to Neetaji on this Guru Purnima and on the day of Jayatirtha Muni's Aradhana. It is indeed very auspicious that we are actually looking at the last few verses of chapter 11 and then moving on to chapter 12. So over to you, Neetaji.
Thank you, Madhusudanji. And now we'll see what Jagat Guru Sri Krishna is concluding in chapter 11, shlokas 52 to 55. So we've heard about Vishvarupa from Anandji and Sushruji. We've heard about Chaturbhuja Rupa from GVJ Wooden, and then the Manusha Rupa, which was just discussed by Prakashji as well. So all these three rupas were discussed. So now he's concluding. So why he wants, Krishna is explaining in these 5 shlokas why he had shown this ferocious rupa. Is it possible to see him by study of Vedas, tapas, yajna, charity? This was briefly touched by Prakashji, but we'll go through it in a little bit more detail. And if not, if he's not seen, does that mean we should not do these activities? If yes, why can't everyone who's doing yajna, dana, tapas, etc. experience this vision? And if none of this is there, then how can we see him? So these are some of the questions answered in these shlokas. So first, why ferocious rupa? Okay, and the beautiful pictures Anji had also showed during his presentation. So Sri Bhagavan Vacha Sudurdarshamidam Rupam Drashtavanasiyan Mama Deva Apyasya Rupasya Nityam Darshana Kankshanaha. So let's take the word Sudurdarshamidam. So Sudurdarshamidam means very rare to see this rupa. Not everyone, it's not easy for anyone to or everyone to see this rupa. Sudurdarshamidam, very, very rare to see this rupa. Not just you, that is Arjuna, even Devatas are eagerly waiting to see this. So they want to see this rupa. And so Krishna says, I give darshan to everyone. And Arjuna has seen it in Devendra. We've discussed this just now. And all the jnanis who were around in the Vishwa saw this Vishvarupa on this occasion along with Arjuna. And some of them saw it with happiness, some with fear. The question is, he says, everyone in saw like, so, but then he's saying it's rare. Sudurdarshamidam. But then everyone saw. His example for everyone here is Shloka 20 and 23. Lokatrayam. So everyone in this three worlds. And Lokaha. So all that means that everyone in the Loka, or Jnani is in the Loka. So but it's not, it is difficult to see, and it was according, they saw it according to their capacity, and we've discussed this before, according to their yogyata. Arjuna is only a nimitta, is a nimitta matram for, Krishna wanted to show him that he's already killed the enemies, and also he was a nimitta for others to get darshan of Vishvarupa. Okay, so that was why he was showing the ferocious rupa. So next one is Naham Vedair na tapasa na danena na chejyaya shakya evam vido drashtum drashtavanasi mam yatha. So Naham Vedair, so not with study of Vedas, na tapasa, not with the tapas, na danena. So you can see the pictures there, not with charity, not with any of the sacrifice. You cannot see him with that. And he's using the word Vedai, means plural. So in putting all the Vedas together, we may not be able to, understanding them, we will not be able to see Lord Krishna. Krishna cannot be understood fully just by reading Vedas. As Madhusudji was mentioning, even Lakshmi does not know him fully. So we are far, far below. So it all, according to our capacity, we may be able to understand a little bit, but never fully. Now, there's a question for audience here. Does that mean we do not do these activities? Study of Vedas or tapas or dana, charity or sacrifice? Anyone wants to? I can't see who's participating, so if here someone can coordinate
no,
that.
no worries. We'll wait for folks to come in. So yajna, dana, and tapa, and Veda. So all 4. Do we not need to do these activities? Can we just jump on the street? Is that enough?
Or yeah, because he's saying that by doing this you won't see it. Does that mean we don't do these?
So yeah, Anandji and then GVG.
Yeah, it does not mean that we should not do these activities. Probably what I think the message being conveyed here is, although these are all important, Vedas, dana, tapa, and charity and all that, although these are all important, they have to be done with an element of bhakti in them. Doing just like a mechanical act is not enough. It has to come with that real devotion. I think that's probably where these shlokas are leading to. So it does not, they definitely have to be done, and we have seen that as to reach that stage, what all has to be done, the vritti gnana, and then all these karma yoga and all other aspects have to be done to reach that, and only then the bhakti comes. In fact, the definition of bhakti includes all of these things.
Thank you, Anand. Yeah.
DBG?
I think it has to be kind of modified a little bit, or you have to do the adhyagraha within ourselves, saying that naham dhanena eva, or or vedairna eva. That means only by reading Vedas is not enough, or only by doing dana is not enough. Exactly like that, like yajna and all those things. Because later on in the 18th chapter, he says that yajna dana tapakriya na tyajyam. So we should not give up. In fact, kartavyameva iti. So they have a kartavyani iti. So it has to be done. So, but then as Anandji said, it has to be done with that bhakti bhava, then it becomes the completeness together. So I think it has to be kind of interpreted as by doing only, like I will do only on tapas, and then that will not itself lead to either even Vishvarupa Darshana or even to aproksha jnana. Has to be like a combination. And also in that same sense, right, that here the jnana, even though it was not specifically said, but jnanena sadrisham nahi, right? So there is nothing more pavitra than the jnana. So, but then all of that, the jnana has to be there as an underlying thing, but all of them have to be done together. And the bhakti is the one that puts everything together, like Anandji said. So it has to be interpreted towards that. Doesn't mean that, these things will not lead to this. They have to be done.
Very interesting, GVG. So then our Yajnavalkya to Gargi, what did he say? Atmavare drashtavyah, shrotavyo, mantavyo, nitidhyasitavyah, he said. You have to do, you can know Atmava are drashtavya, you can see only through Vedas and Shrotavya, Veda, Mantavya, Manana, and Nitidhyasitavyah through Dhyana and all that. That is also there. And then, of course, our Katha Upanishad actually, I think he synthesizes the argument extremely well, which we should never forget here. Na ayam atma pravachanena labhyaha na medaya na bahuna shrutena yam eva esha vrunute tena labhyaha tasya ya ashma vivrunute tanun swam. So that grace, so that is also beautiful. And I remember Bandanji informing. It's very, very interesting how Krishna says this, and the Upanishads also talk about these kind of stuff. These four alone may not give you the moksha, but these four alone are required for moksha. So you can say, oh, these four may not give you the moksha, but this is only way in which you can have the moksha. Because if you bring in bhakti and so on. So Bandanji makes this a very, very strong argument here. Veena ji, Suresh ji.
Well, thanks, Madhuji. I mean, I think all said. I was just reminded of something we had discussed before, where if you do the yajna without understanding what you are doing, the only thing you are exposing yourself to is diseases because of smoke inhalation. COPD is perhaps what you will get. I agreed. I think the answer to that question is perhaps in the next sentence of the verse itself. These alone, without bhakti, perhaps would not yield the right result. They will give their own benefits. But if you're looking at the ultimate, which is moksha, then perhaps any one of these by themselves as a construct, irrespective of how they are done, without bhakti, perhaps would not yield, is how maybe a way of looking at it.
Sure,
Thank you.
Suresh ji. And also,
Madhuji,
yeah.
yes. Sorry, can I just say, I think the intention of every action is just as important as the action itself. So, I mean, there are lots of Rakshasas who also did a lot of tapas, but their intention was not good. And similarly, you can do charity for the wrong purposes or sacrifices for the wrong purposes. So, the intention of why you are doing these is also very important.
Super, Sushilji. Absolutely agree with you on this. And yeah, so you can do how much ever bhakti you want, but still his grace has to be there. So that is the key, right? Bhakti is only a kind of a key for us to, somehow trigger his grace. He has to then turn and say, okay, you have done a lot of bhakti. Oh, you have read a lot of Vedas. Oh, you got a lot of bhakti. Okay, now I'm impressed and I'm going to look at you. If he looks at us, that is the grace, right? So ultimately it boils to that. But anyway, fantastic discussion. Back to you, Neetaji.
No, thank you everyone for contributing. I think I was also looking for the example where, or the shloka where he has said that you have to do these. I think GVG mentioned that briefly, so I'll go to that shloka. Yajnadana tapakarma natyajam karyameva tat yajnodanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. So in 18th chapter, he has clearly said that you have to do these activities. So so this is not to say that not to do them. It's just to say that these alone, as Suresh was mentioning, is not enough, and the intention, etc. All that is very important. Thank you for an interactive discussion. Just one more thing I want to mention. Why normally Sri Krishna does not repeat anything. So why is he repeating something he has said in 48 just now, which Prakash mentioned? Is there a defect? No. Again, Sri Raghvendra Swamiji has explained. It's in the fact that he's just emphasizing the fact that it is very, very rare to see it. So even with all these, it's rare to see. That's why he's emphasizing the fact Sudur Darshamidam. So that is why there's a repetition here. So going back to doing these activities.
So we got a hand raise from Anandji, Neetaji. 1 minute, Anand.
Just
go
a
ahead.
quick comment, Neetaji. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
Pavanani Manishinam, that is a very, very good word. It's by doing all these sadhanas, yajna, dana, tapa, karma, it makes a Shuddha Buddhi. Shuddha Buddhi, and that leads to, the meditation, Aproksha Gnana, blah, blah, blah. So it was a nice, very nice slok there.
Absolutely. I think the 18th chapter of Sri Krishna Shloka. Now, one more thing I would like to point you to take you back to is go and listen to Katha Upanishad discussion by Madhusudanji, where he says Trikarma Krit. And he's discussed all these Vedas, charity, Yajna, Dana, Tapaha in detail. Trikarma Krit. So we have to do these three activities. Sureshji?
Yeah, Neetaji. I mean, in the sense, the repetition part of it, maybe the first time when he says it is for to make it clear that what you see is as per your yogyata. I mean, even if you do all of this, we will not be. It's in comparison to what Arjuna saw. I think that was the context there. Here it is a more generalized statement where he's saying that, okay, even if you have to see as per your capacity, these alone are not sufficient. So that's how I was at least understanding.
Thank you, Suresh. The other one also, very briefly, Neetaji, two verses, 2 points we should have: Punarukti and Avritti. Yeah, Punarukti is repetition, is a defect, whereas Avritti is revision. So as Bandanji says, repetition and reiteration. So what Krishna is doing here is reiteration rather than repetition. So it is not a Punarukti, it is Avrittihi Asakriti Upadeshat, as Veda Vyasa said. Any opportunity, revise. So that is what I think Krishna is doing here. As Veda Vyasa's another form, he is telling us here.
Thank you, Suji. So yes, message there is we have to revise a lot because we keep so and so going back to, so let's take let's briefly discuss all these 4 activities: study of Vedas, Shruti, etc. Let's go one by one. So study of Vedas to get knowledge. Does that give you this this vision? Maybe because we may just read it, but we may not understand the right meaning. So Madhusudanji talks about Guhya Bhasha, Savakasha Shruti, and Niravakasha Shruti. So even with Savakasha Shruti, there may be many meanings. People might interpret them wrongly. And the other thing is, he's already just mentioned this one. So Nayamatma Pravachanena Labhya Na Medhaya Na Bahuna Shrutena. Which Upanishad? Anyone?
Katha.
Thank you. Yeah. So even if just because you're intelligent or you can memorize something, that doesn't mean that you will get the knowledge or by doing pravachana or just by listening to all this, you're not going to get that vision. So that, or or mukti. So again, why do you study the Vedas? We study Vedas to get knowledge. And again, Sri Krishna has mentioned in 18th chapter that knowledge is of three types: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. So just by getting knowledge doesn't mean it's important. It's getting the sattvic knowledge. Understanding the sattvic knowledge is very important. And what does that sattvic knowledge mean? That we have to understand that there's only one imperishable entity, and is apprehended in all different beings of different types. And we must remember the 15th chapter, last 5 shlokas, which gives us all the infinite auspicious attributes, like all pervasive, supports everything, independent, eternal, etc. Can't list them because it's too long. So that is why just not studying of Vedas alone is not good. So sattvic. So keep that sattvic one aside. We'll collect them all and then join them up later. So what about tapas? Austerity. So austerities of three different things, of kaya, vacha, and manasa. So action, mind, and speech. Again, in 17th chapter, all these three are described. What is sattvic and rajasic and tamasic. Tapas. I would like to thank TSR Guruji here for teaching us what tapas, importance of tapas is. Key thing is, first thing we have to know who is being worshipped, who are they worshipping. So it has to be the highest, Vishnu. How has that person understood God? To what capacity? What is the boon that they're requesting? And what's the boon going to be used for? So all these 4 points are important when it comes to tapas. So I've shown a picture here. Anyone wants volunteer to explain all these 4 points using that picture?
Suresh ji is on.
Yeah. Suresh ji, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Nitish. No.
So I was going to take two. I don't want. I'll park my this thing. I will get others to contribute. Suresh ji, unless you had about TSR's view on tapas, who is being worshipped, how has that person understood God? What is the boon? What boon is going to be used? If we, I think, Neetaji, thank you very much for reminding this, because if we apply these 4 rules in any aspect of Mahabharata or any of the Puranas, then you will be able to resolve most of the things. You have to bring Taratamya in the equation, and you have to bring who is being worshipped in this 4 equation, and then you put it in, then there is no confusion. You will not have any internal inconsistency. That is the problem that some folks face, but using this formula is very good. So yeah, anybody wants to come in, Anand or anybody else to explain?
You mean in this picture, who is being worshipped? Is that the question?
I think it was Hiranyakashipu. He did tapas to Chaturmukha Brahma. He was anti Vishnu. He thought he himself was God. And his boon, obviously, everyone knows that he initially wanted to be immortal, but Chaturmukha Brahma said, no, you can't have that. So he then put all these conditions: not day, night, no animal, no weapon, all those things. And his boon was so that he could fight Vishnu and become God himself. That was his aim.
So none of those were right. So
all intentions were wrong.
Yeah. So where does it put?
Neetaji, if I may, so the other intention is Dhruva. So Dhruva was an exemplar tapas. Dhruva went to the forest. He meditated on Vishnu, and then the Sarvotama. He meditated on Sarvotama. Then Sarvotama gives him aparoksha jnana, and then he says, "Okay, Dhruva, what do you want?" Dhruva said, "I don't want anything. Just ensure that I am your Parama Bhakta." So that is all he did. So that is the boon he asked for. Whereas our Hiranyakashipu, Mad Anya, I like this. I always want to say this about Hiranyakashipu. He said, I am God. Mad Anyaha Ishwaraha Kaha. Mad Anyaha Ishwaraha Kaha. He keeps saying that, and we all know what happened from this picture. So never forget that. So Anandji.
I mean, we can also apply all these 4 questions to the picture given. Now, who is being worshipped? Vishnu as Narasimha. What has that person understood? Sorry, Prahalada has understood him as Doshadura and Gunapurna. And then what is the boon? Narasimha gives him lots of boons. And with that, he does make use of those bones, not for personal, for his dad's sake, and then for becoming a great emperor of India. So
Thank you. Yeah.
that picture, I thought you were asking about the picture.
That's correct. Yeah, it's yes. I think it's a nice way. It's a different angle, Anandji. Thank you so much, because I think that way that part will go into the sattvic tapas, and the Hiranyakashipus will go into the tamasic tapas. So now you can work out both would have done tapas, but which one would get the mukti, right? So it's not just doing tapas, but we have to answer all those 4 questions. So
Neetaji,
yeah,
one
different
other thing
angle.
also, what is the
Yeah.
boon going to be used for is important, because our Hiranyakashipu, he actually wanted to punish the lovers of Vishnu. The bhaktas of Vishnu, he wanted to punish them. That is what Narasimha did not like.
Yes.
Narasimha's view was, okay, you hate me, you do whatever you want, you say I don't exist, or you say I am you, you do all sorts of rubbish, but don't you ever hate my devotees. And if you do that, you're finished. So that is also comes out very well, the 4th point in this picture.
Thank you very much. Again, very interactive discussion. So we'll move on. So charity, again, Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic, 18th chapter. Sorry, we're not revising a 17th or 18th chapter, but I'm just bringing them in to explain the 3 different types, and that why charity alone is not going to lead to mukti. So Sattvic charity, again, with no return, like we're not expecting anything in return. Whereas Rajasic, given reluctantly or to gain some return, and Banerjee Vidyacha always explains, like politicians giving donations only so that they get a picture in the newspaper next day. So that is very, very Rajasic. Tamasic is to the wrong people, unworthy people, without respect is Tamasic. And another example he likes to give is giving fan to someone in cold weather, or giving a heater to someone in south of India or Chennai. So that's the wrong place there, and the wrong object as well. So you have to give the right dana to right people. So collect the green bit and then go to sacrifice. That's yajna. Very similar Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic yajna. We have done this very briefly, so I will not go through details here. But we have done this in 4th chapter. If you want to go back and revise, and she always talks about yajna. We've done that as and yajna is Deva Pujana, Sangati Karana, and Dana. Dana is also included in yajna. So yajna includes a lot of other things that we have discussed, tapas, dana, etc. So there are different types of yajna. So go back to the 4th chapter. But I want you to remember that the Sattvic yajna here, those seeking no reward and done according to scriptural rules. So that is the key. So if all those 4 we are not able to, then what is it? It is the bhakti alone, which again we brought, that was discussed earlier. So bhakti alone, bhaktya ananyaya shakyaha ahamevam vidorjuna jat jnatum drashtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. So bhakti is the only one that can take you. Again, very famous or very well-known 20-point program that Madhusudji talks about all the time. In 13th chapter, the 15th point is Mai Chananya Yogena Bhaktira Vyabhicharini. So without bhakti, all the other 20 points are useless. So we might do all of those activities or do everything, but without bhakti, nothing is possible. And again, to be done without ego, without saying Mechchuta, take my chariot. So without ego, that has to be done. Okay, if there is bhakti, then Vishnu is your adhina, bhakta paradhina. He is a bhakta paradhina. In this, bhaktya tu ananyaya shakya. So there's a word tu that has been used. It emphasizes the bhakti part. That is, without which, if tapas, dana, etc. is done, is useless. And ananya means without help from anything else, or it the only liking that object, or only in God. So ananya. Okay. We'll go through bhakti definition in the next chapter. This is just the beginning to say that bhakti is important. Okay. Now, the second line of this shloka, jnatum drashtum cha tatvena. So, to know, to see, and to attain moksha, praveshtum, to enter. To enter what? To enter Vaikuntha Loka, to get Sayujya Mukti. So we need bhakti. So we need bhakti for Jnatum, we need bhakti for Drashtum, we need bhakti for Praveshtum. So we need all that. So Jnatum, again, bhakti, we have to have knowledge to have bhakti, and then bhakti will give us more knowledge, and that spirals upwards. So hopefully upwards, so we should have the right knowledge and going upwards, even after moksha, that continues. And then that will lead us to seeing or getting aproksha jnana, to see Lord. And at that point, once aproksha jnana has happened, all defects will be excused. We know that. We've discussed this before in previous lectures. And then there'll be no obstacles to reach God or good or praveshtu. So the interesting fact here is parantapa. Why has Shri Krishna used parantapa? We all know he's destroyer of enemies. I just want to put a question here. What enemies do we have? What are we talking about? What would have come in way of bhakti?
Arishad Vargas.
Thank you. Thank you, Jiviji. Yes, Arishad Vargas. So we have to fight those so that they don't come in. And there's another meaning of parantapa. Param means it's always thinking of God. Tapati, to get rid of anything that comes in the way of thinking of God. Okay, so that's why parantapa. Okay, so for all this, we will need bhakti. So how do we do that? So it goes ahead to give 5 points. Okay, how do we do bhakti? 5 points, and the same thing will be in bhakti definition as well afterwards. So mat karma krin, mat paramaha, mat bhakta sangavarjitaha, nirvaira sarva bhuteshu yassa mameti pandava. So 5 things. Mat karma krit. So every action that is performed as should be as an offering to the Lord. So maya karma krit. So remembering that God is the one who is actually making us do them. So he's the one behind this. Mahyam karma krit, to please God. Mama karma krit, all work as a prayer. Mai karma krit, submitting everything to Lord. If you've done everything but not submitted it, like Krishna Padamastu, then again you won't get the phala. So you have to submit it to God. Mat paramaha. So you have to remember that he is the highest goal of life. So again, matta parataram nanyat. So we've seen that in 7th chapter. Para means shresht. Ma means words or speech. In Kannada, what we call matu. That is Vedas. So what Vedas, who the Vedas talk about? The highest, the param. So we have to remember that he is the highest. Mat parama. Mad bhakta, being a bhakta. Okay. Bhakti with knowledge. We'll again discuss that later. Sangha varjitaha. So if we are free from attachment, that's when we can do all the other activities. Yeah. Or being a bhakta. Nirvaira. Again, no hatred toward anyone. So how does that help with bhakti? Anyone? Both of these, Sangha varjita and Nirvaira. I think GVG had briefly mentioned that when I said enemies.
Enemies are all the negative thoughts.
Yeah. So again, if you have got enmity towards someone, sorry, was someone answering that? Or shall I go ahead? Yeah. So nirvaira means if you have vaira to someone, you'll be thinking about them all the time, which means that space in your brain is occupied by that thought and not thought of Bhagwanta. So you need to get rid of that. So this is where the 6th chapter, how to meditate, etc., it comes in there as well. So all these are important to be able to concentrate on Lord. So okay, so those are the 5 qualities to remember. I'm just bringing very briefly about karma because he says mat karma krit, so every action should be offered to Lord. One of the slides that we discussed long time ago. So the karma has to be sattvic again, according to the scriptures. It has to be according to varna and ashrama, without thinking of success or defeat, and as a prayer to Lord. And we know that without attachment, the famous shloka from chapter 5. Okay. So I think this is what everyone was discussing in the beginning. So we have to have So we have collected all those: sattvic knowledge, sattvic tapas, sattvic karma, sattvic dana, without attachment, and being nirvaira as well. But the key thing is the central one, that is there, bhakti. That has to overlap, that has to be there. And Guru Mukhena. That is why that Guru Shishya pictures has been added. So that is what Jiva has to do. We can only do those things, but then finally it's the grace of Paramatma that has to be added to that. And then there will be Pravesh Tummo, the Mukti that you can get, Sayuja. And again, detachment from the janas or the material things is important. Okay. So with this as my final slide, I will end that this is the message that he was giving. And this, as you've seen, bhakti is the central part of any activity that is done. And we will take that up further in detail in 12th chapter. But before that, let's go and talk about a bit about Sri Jayatirtha Tika, who's also called Tikacharya, as it is his Aradhana today. I will pass it over to GBG, and then I'll come back to tell you the summary of what the 12th, or how we're going to how we're going to take up the 12th chapter. Over to you, GBG.
Before we go to talk about Jayatirtha, are there any, do you want to entertain questions or discussions to the whatever you discussed at this point?
Yeah, sure, GBG. Yeah, maybe. Sanita ji, if you want to go back to the previous slide. Sorry, I think
Yeah, that's a fair point, GBG. We'll go back. Yeah.
We'll go back to the previous slide, Neetaji. Here. Okay. This is a beautiful slide. Gives the whole summary of how the journey of souls should be. But Neetaji, this is really difficult. Yeah, it's
Yes.
it's very, very difficult. Where do you start? Do I have to start with Satvika karma or Satvika knowledge, Satvika tapas, Satvika dana? Yeah. The theory is that you need to have the knowledge base to bring it into practical fruition. Without that, you can't even do it. So in that sense, it's amazing. This is a beautiful, beautiful summary slide. So I'm really lost as to where we should start, because we are all stuck. Yeah. I don't want to be rude here, but there is an inherent hypocrisy in all of us as jivas, right? So when we are in satsang and everything, it feels good. It feels very nice to do satvika karma, but once you go out tomorrow morning when you are at work, I don't know how much you can do satvika karma. It is really, really difficult. So I don't know where we start, and I just want to open that for discussion as a group. Prakash ji has also raised his hands. Prakash ji, you're muted. So we'll do Prakash,
Okay,
then
sure.
Pratibha, and then Anand ji. Yeah.
Okay. A very nice presentation, Neetaji. So now my question here is the penultimate shloka, 54th. Jnatum drashtum praveshtum sayujyam. Sayujyam is not for everybody.
Yeah.
So again, the Taratamya comes into picture. Even though he's saying that to Arjuna, it is also for everybody else, but again, according to their capacity. I think this whole pankti of the shlokas today, the 52 to the end, it all depends on the Taratamya, right? Because we don't have the praveshtam.
Correct.
Okay, that's one thing which I think we should that goes, that line of thought goes from the beginning of this pankti to the end. And then the second interesting fight is nirvairaha. Enmity, like you said, that will be in the back of our mind, that will stop our progress, that will be a stumbling block. The same way, even if you like somebody so much, that also can be a obstacle or stumbling block. But that's not been mentioned here. Probably, I think, do we have to do an adhyayara here? If you do the adhyayara, will that be what you can say, adhika prasangitana, or what do you think about that?
Yes, thank you, Prakash. Thank you for the other one as well. Yes, Mukti, there are 4 types, so I will not go into that detail, but it's yes, it is mainly for Brahma, Vayu, etc., all the other ones. So here, coming to Nirvaira and using the attachment. So here, Sanghavarjita will bring that, isn't it? Too much attachment to someone. It's detached attachment is what Vananji, she say, always explains. Detached attachment. So both are a problem. So free from attachment, that's where the Sanghavarjita comes, isn't it? Is that right?
Well, that's a good point, because the same Sanghavarjita can be applied to the people who are enemies also, right? Why should I get attached to them? Like how I get attached to the people whom I like. If I treat them both equally, then also Sanghavarjita will be applicable there, right?
Correct.
So that's where I want to delve a little bit deeper into why Nirvaira is being used there.
Okay. I am with you. So Nirvaira and Sanghavarjita, you're saying, are same.
In the context that Nirvaira, meaning not having enmity, meaning what? It is also an attachment, right? It's a negative attachment.
Yes. But it's also that's right. Yeah.
So,
But not hatred level, I think. Attachment could be, but also could be to objects as well, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm just trying to.
Correct. No,
I'm just
but I
trying
would
to.
like to see what
Yeah,
others
I
think of
want to
it.
see I hear other people's thoughts.
Yeah,
how
let's see what
they
others
see.
think of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So previous slide, Neetaji, about Praveshtum and Sayujya, that's really, really interesting. 2 points I wanted to make. Praveshtum. So here, this is Krishna and Arjuna having a conversation. Arjuna is Indra. Okay, Amsha of Indra right now, but actually his Mula Rupa is Indra. And Indra is a Tattvabhimani Devata. And Tattvabhimani Devatas have Sayujya. So they are they are either in floating on Brahman, right? They're inside Brahman. Chandrama Manaso Jadaha Chakshu Suryo Ajayata Mukhad Indrashcha Agnishcha. Mukhad Indrashcha. Okay, Mukhad, Indrashta, Agnishta, Indra. So they are all coming from Brahman and they will also go into Brahman. So it is probably to illustrate that point about Sayujya that Praveshtum is used here. But you and I don't know how many of us are Tattvabhimani Devatas in this satsang, but I don't know where we are. We may be, if we are even going to get some moksha at some point, we'll probably in some Salokya, somewhere in the peripherally, there must be some near the border. We must have just crossed the Viraja Nadi, and there must be the first station where we might be, I think. So the Sayujya here probably implies to Indra, and that is why it is brought here. And the other one is Praveshta, enter in. Very, very clear for me. You don't become, you enter. Just because I enter into the house, I and the house is not the same. The house is there, I am there, I am entering in. Okay. So the praveshta is very, very important word of talking about. Brahman is there, Jiva is there. Jiva enters. Jiva is not becoming Brahman as some folks want us to think about, but Praveshtam clearly is not that. So I'm looking at it from 2 aspects. That is what I wanted to contribute for the previous verse. We'll get Pratibha ji and Veena ji and then Anand ji to come in. Yeah.
I just thought of this Satvika karma and Nishkama karma. Are they both the same?
Pratibha ji, yes. Satvika karma. Nishkama karma is Satvika karma.
Yeah, and then that Nirvairi part, that should not have enemies. That one I just felt like, I remember this again, TSR Guruji talking about Bhima, like in that he there are a lot of things the Kauravas had done for him, but he gets angry only for one thing, that they didn't respect the Lord Krishna. No? So when you have an enmity towards the Lord, that is that enemy part, not enemy towards you. So that selfish enmity is not enmity, I feel. That I hope I told it. I didn't tell it properly, but I hope you got the message.
Yes, no, absolutely right. I think that is the thing. Yeah, Vaishnava Bhakti, isn't it? Towards Vaishnavas, that means whoever's praying to Vishnu, and it should not be for self enmity for selfish reasons. And it doesn't mean that Nirvaira doesn't mean that, yes, you go and be friends with Duryodhana or Duryodhana like people. You just ignore, leave them alone. Don't have to be in their Sangha. But it doesn't, that it's not that type of enmity. Because if you keep thinking of enmity, you can't, or thinking about them, then you can't do bhakti. So it's just leaving them alone or not being with them.
But Neetaji, Prakashji is bringing a very interesting point about
Yeah.
Sangavarjitaha, Nirvairaha. Do they become Punarukti? Do they say the same thing or they're two different things? If you don't have, if you are Sangavarjitaha, if you don't have attachment, you will automatically will be a Nirvairi. Yeah, I think that is what Prakashji is asking, right? Prakashji, if I got your
That's correct. Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
how do we reconcile? Maybe dvandvas, right? They're all dvandvas.
Bandhas,
So
yeah.
dvandva. So maybe sangavarjitaha nirvairaha or dvandva. Sangavarjitaha, people who are glorifying you and who are always being nice to you. Should you be attached to them? No. So you could say sangavarjitaha there, and then for your enemies, also you don't have to be. So maybe it is the dvandva that is being discussed here. I haven't thought about that way, but I don't know what others feel. So Sureshji and then Anandji.
No, thanks, Madhuj. I mean, the same thing, perhaps. Nirvaira and Sangavarjita. I mean, I thought Sangavarjita is here used more, I mean, like Krishna uses in the chapter 13. Like where he says, Maicha Ananya Yogena Bhaktira Vibhicharini Vivikta Desha Sevitvam Aratir Janasamsadi. So Sangavarjita, that I mean, the people who are lost in bhakti, they seek more contemplation from within. So it's more Sangavarjita from that point of view. Nirvaira is more lack of enmity. So it's not. It is two different contexts. These two words are signifying is how I was interpreting.
Thank you.
So thank you, Sureshji. Anand.
No, I think my comment was on the previous shloka, Neetaji. Yeah,
The muktis,
just a quick comment here. This is one of those rare shlokas where Arjuna has been addressed twice by name. In the first pada, it says Arjuna, and then the other says Paranta Pada. I thought that was interesting. And in the last slide, which Madhuji was alluding to, the last slide.
Last slide. Okay.
Was this one.
Yeah.
Yes, Madhuji, it is difficult. But probably the 14th chapter makes it very clear that even sattvic knowledge, sattvic karma, sattvic tapas, and all the sattvic sadhanas are binding.
Yes.
They bind you. Even sattvic things bind you. So we have to be gunatita. And again, that is extremely difficult. We have to be beyond all the three gunas. And I always recall Pragnesji's example in this thing. Pragnesji always says about that long jump with that pole. So you have to run with the pole, slow down, make it jump, and then at one point give up that pole. And that peak of that pole is sattva. And once you give up that, you are on the other side. Praveshtum cha parantapa. I think it is definitely difficult.
Yeah. This Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna.
But yeah.
Thank you, Anandji. I think that was very good.
That's why in Kathopanishad it said, Yamai Veshavrunate Tena Labhyaha. Yes. I mean, whoever the self chooses, divinity chooses, then only he will receive the knowledge, isn't it? That's what Madhuji said about Katha Upanishad, the verses.
Sure. Thank you, Shilaji. Anandji, but Asanga Shastrena Dridena Chitva, Krishna said in the 15th, Asanga Shastrena. So there we understood that Asanga there is, one is remove the material attachment, but you attach yourself to Aha Iti Brahma. You attach yourself to Paramatma. Asanga there is, you need to have that attachment, then you will get over. Yeah, that is one I thought I'll bring in. But my own submission here is this is very difficult. This is Krishna is asking us to elevate and perform at such a high level. He is asking us to perform at super distinction level to reach him. I don't know how it is possible. And again, I would like to think that we are all stuck in the very first, in the 20-point program. We are stuck in the first first and the second point. Amanitvam, adambitvam. That is that we are stuck. I think
Yes.
most of us are stuck in that first 2 points. Maybe if we go beyond that, then these things will come.
Yeah.
Very
So in that sense, the Satvika karma is different from Nishkama karma. Satvika karma binds you, badnati, whereas Nishkama karma does not bind you.
Good point. Excellent. Thank you for yeah. Right. Prakashji?
Actually, Madhuji brought a very good point. The moment you go to work, can you practice these things? So my question, I want to make it even more little bit specific. Go to work, competition starts, depending on whatever the job you're doing. How do you see God in that competition?
Yes. So, what are you competing for?
I know, whatever your occasion is, you want to be the best there, you have to go beyond that, whatever that may mean, right? So how do you see God in that, there, it's totally opposite to what we are all talking about. Totally opposite.
The question is
So,
what
we are, to be very honest, we are like hypocrites. Saying something, practicing something totally different. So how will you bring that without affecting your career? It's a very practical thing. How do you say that?
I think it may be different for different the examples may be different, but if you're seeing patients, I think as a doctor, so you see patients, you do your best for the patient. It's not like, oh yes, I want to be the top, I want to be, over everyone. You do the job properly, you will get there, isn't it? As if you're praying to God, whatever job you're doing for the day, you think this is the prayer I'm doing it for, and the state of mind will be different. How you're doing that job. If you're going to work thinking, okay, this is the prayer, this is not like separate, I'm sitting in front of God to pray. No, what I'm driving is a prayer. Where I'm going to is a prayer. What I'm doing is a prayer. So if you do it in that way, you will get there. I know it's easier said than done. I completely agree.
Yeah, Prakash Nitaji, another thing, it's very well to na aham karta hari karta. Na aham karta hari karta. Very easy to say this, but putting it into practice is really difficult. I mean, one way of doing it is, as following on from what Neetaji was saying, if then some person writes a letter to you, so you were an amazing doctor, you did a wonderful treatment for me, and compliment. So there'll be letters of compliment that will come, and there'll be somebody will say, you gave me the worst treatment, I was so unhappy with you. So you might get complaints as well as compliments with what you do, or as you say, you may win some stuff and you may not win some. How we are going to handle with this? So I think the only thing is, the more we do practice of our Shastra, the more we bring it in our day-to-day ups and downs, then there is some solution of making progress. So again, that is where I honestly feel we are, as Prabhanjanachar says, we are nowhere in this whole sequence of event, but at least to know what that route is important. Having the direction map is interesting, but whether we are able to go, I really don't know. I completely agree with you, Prakash ji. I don't know how this ought to be done. People who say they're doing it, good luck to them. They're probably really doing it, but I think there is a whole lot of hypocrisy around this, including all the fake swamis fake gurus who are out there. There are a lot of hypocrisies out there, in every aspect of what we see. So again, I think we have to just stick to our gurus, and not of the modern ones, but of the gurus, that gurus. We have to stick to our ancient rishis of the Upanishads, our gurus, and then have our own introspection and do it. We are our best witness. So we have to be honest to each other. That is to ourselves. That is the only way of doing it. But even then, it's very difficult. So it is a difficult task. And if somebody thought getting moksha was very easy, and again, some people think they think getting moksha is very easy. Just jump around and you will get moksha. No, it is such a difficult process. Multiple lives. That is why Krishna said, right? Bahunam janmanamante mam prapadyante vasudevaha sarvamidam. So it is going to take ages. Venki ji?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think one way to think about it, Madhusudan ji, and what I think Prakash ji is saying is, you know, you guys are in the medical field, you're actually saving people's lives. We are not in the medical field. We are sort of like in this situation where the moment you say something, there will be one or two or three people who will say, whatever it is that you said is not the right thing to say. Here is all the reasons why. If you want to do something new, the first thing they'll say is, here, we tried that and it didn't work, and this is what is happening. And so there will always be what you would call your nemesis at work. And it happens day in and day out. And I think that is what probably Prakash ji is referring to. So Prakash ji, I'm not by any way an expert in it, but I try to do two things, Prakash ji. That might be something which is helpful, and it still is not working well for me, but maybe it works well for other people. One is on Ekadashi day, at least. On Ekadashi day, at least, I try to assume that the people who are telling me are telling it from a good place in their heart. So in other words, when the naysayers are saying some stuff and it becomes a little bit difficult, then you should say the same God that is there inside me is also making them do the same exact thing. And so this is some past karma that I am paying off by listening to a unwarranted lecture or an unwarranted review, like what Madhuji said, is coming my way. So on at least Ekadashi day, I'm going to assume that they had a good thing in their heart and they're telling me the right thing. So maybe that helps a little bit. The other thing too is, nobody said that if you do really, really, really good work, you will be showered with accolades. Most of the time when you do really, really good work is when you are also not going to be showered with accolades. So you need to be a little bit more realistic. The more good work that you do, the more commentary is going to come your way, is essentially how you should look at it. So those are the two things that I keep in mind. It's still a lot of work in progress, I think.
Yeah, yes. No, thank you for all your contributions. I think one thing when Madhuj is mentioning complaints or compliments or whatever we get, I think this is where Anandji's lecture, equanimity, the graph of equanimity comes in, isn't it? So that is where it is difficult, how to adjust both the graphs, the top one and the bottom, and keep our emotions stable. Because if we are very excited, we will not do the next job properly. Or if we are very upset, we will not do the next job properly. So that's where the equanimity comes in. Again, easier said than done. So let's move on. We'll keep practicing. The more we hear, the more we discuss, hopefully get slightly better each time. So with that note, I think we'll move on to GVG because it's Sri Jayatith's Aradhana today. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about Sri Jayatith. Over to you.
So today is the Aradhana of Jaitirtha Muni. So Madhuji and Nitaji asked me to say a few words and then few Chinthana about this great person, Jaitirtha Muni. So his shloka goes like this: Chitraye Padescha Gambiryehi Vakher Mane Rakandatehi Guru Bhavam Vanjayanti Bhati Shri Jaitirtha Vak. So that is the Charma shloka. And then, so Jaitirtha Muni is the second generation disciple of Madhvacharya. So Madhvacharya, then Akshobhya Tirtha, then comes Jaitirtha Muni. So it's not a direct descendant, but one generation apart. But he is credited with basically like forming up this Tattvavada philosophy. So Acharya, even though he is the drishta, he's the seer of a new line of thought or new way of interpreting Sadagama, but they later, to put it in a firm grounds of a systematized philosophy. So it is the work of Jaitirtha that basically took the vision and the intent of Madhvacharya or Ananda Tirtha and then systematized it. So that credit goes to Jaitirtha through his Vyakhyana in the form of tikas of Ananda Tirtha's work. So there are total about 23 works credited to Jaitirtha. Of the 23, 19 of them are all tikas or interpretations of further explanation of what Ananda Tirtha said. So that is why he is called Bhati Sri Jayatirtha Vak. And in his words comes Guru Bhavam Venjayanti. That is whatever Ananda Tirtha wanted to say, Guru Bhavam Venjayanti. That it all came out in full splendor and then in full completeness and everything is due to Jayatirtha. What does that mean? So just to give an example, we have also seen some of the bhashyas of some Upanishads and some Gita and everything. We are looking at Madhva Bhashya and then a Tatparya and everything. So if you looked at some of the Madhva Bhashyas, are very rarely they are in long forms. Very rarely they are even in full sentences. They are they are like in bullets, right? Points and everything. So, for an person who is looking for a kind of prose form with all explanations and everything, you don't find it in Madhvacharya's original work. So people were even kind of saying that, hey, this doesn't quite fit in how a philosophy is derived, right? Though this is like a bunch of observation, some independent thoughts and everything, but far from what people would call it as a systematized school of thought or in a philosophy. So that work Jayatirtha first did it. So he kind of took that, what is called this abstractness of a vision, and then laid it as a full foundation of a solid definition of a philosophy through his tikas in that one. Sometimes even when we had seen in the Gita Bhashya, Madhvacharya, why is Acharya saying like that? What made him say like that? All of a sudden you see some kind of one bullet board. That's it, right? Nothing like that. So for people who would not have been fully familiar with all other Purva Pakshas and everything, it will look like it is out of place. So because Acharya probably assumed that the reader would be aware of all of that, right? But then, that is not the case. But then if somebody comes later in the field and everything who is not aware of all the other interpretations or even the other works of Sadagamas and everything, Puranas and other ones, people would not be able to place it. So Jayatirtha formalized it. He kind of formalized it, what is Purva Paksha? And he took all the existing Purva Pakshas and then systematically kind of discredited one after the other, right? Why it is not right and everything before arriving with what is called the Siddhanta, right? Siddhanta is the conclusion. But before you arrive at a conclusion of a particular concept, one has to take the various possible interpretations and then remove one after the other in a systematic way as to why it is not correct. And then he did even a step further. He also took what are the so-called at that time the existing Purva Pakshas. And then he created, okay, what else could be missing? So he created his own Purva Paksha to make it like complete 365 degrees that you can't think of any other Purva Paksha or any other ideas associated with that concept. So it was like full 365 panel vision, and he did that one. And then finally says that this is the Siddhanta, meaning this is the conclusion out of all that, and then it stands through Tarka or logic, and was supported fully by Pramana, and then not against the experience. So he took all of that and everything, systematized it. So that is why he is called Tikacharya. So through works of Tikas of Ananda Tirtha, so he systematized that one. And then later on, Vyasa Tirtha further expanded upon Jayatirtha's work and then put complete fence around it. So that is why they are called Manitrayas. So I started with a vision of Madhvacharya, grew into an rooted philosophical thought with Jayatirtha, and then became like a more established philosophy under Vyasatirtha. So Jayatirtha takes a unique position in Tattvavada Guru Parampara. And for the, and for the, not only for the Tattvada Guru Parampara, it is like, it is for everybody in the humanity who kind of basically help to systematize this thought. So yeah, he takes a very special place in the history of Indian philosophy. In fact, on two occasions, it's okay that he is only recognized only in this Guru lineage of only this Madhva Sampradaya. Not so. Even in his time, so when what's his name? Vidyaranya, right? At that time, a known Pandita and a known scholar, established scholar of Advaitic philosophy and other ones. He was accepted at that time as scholar at large. So he comes to, so he sees Jaitirtha. I don't know what made him see that or whatever. But then, he thought that, like he first asked for, hey, show me some of your work. And then initially he shows some preliminary works and everything. Hey, these are all like kindergarten stuff. Show me something advanced. Then he shows the most advanced, his tikas to Bhashya, and then finally Nyaya Sudha and everything. He is completely overwhelmed and all of that. Even coming from an opposition once, he recognized the grandeur of that work and the uniqueness of work and everything. And then he takes all his granthas and then puts them on an elephant. And then he walks by the side with his grantha on that one. So that such is the admiration given by the opposition party right at his own time. So that shows that how elevated is that work is. And then in the modern times, when Dasgupta of Calcutta, he basically wrote several volumes, systematized that the history of Indian philosophy, right? All the thoughts from going back to when and everything. And that is what is still being taught in colleges and universities today. When somebody has to learn Indian philosophy, this is a textbook, right, of that. So this Dasgupta says that, but for Jaitirtha and then Vyasatirtha and everything, this would have not even formed a full force philosophy and everything. And then he credits that for the tarka and for systematic establishment of the philosophical thought. He particularly credits that, of the contribution of Jaitirtha and then Vyasatirtha. So it has held right from his own time and all the way to today's thing of an exemplary status of Jaitirtha in systematizing the philosophy. And in doing so, what he did was Guru Bhavam and Jayanti. So he only did whatever the Guru wanted to say, nothing more, nothing less. So that is why it is Guru Bhavam and Jayanti. Whatever Ananda Tirtha wanted to say, he brought it to the full splendor and all of that and everything. So such is the person's contribution. So today is his Aradhana day. We remember him specially for his contribution. And with that, so Krishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you very much, Jimji. It's amazing to learn about Shri Tikacharya. So I can see Saptarshi's hand raised.
Thanks, Neetaji. So thanks, GVG, that you mentioned about Dasgupta's mentioning Jayatirtha and Vyasatirtha, and what is very nice, he used the term that their work and in the dialectical and logical field is unparalleled. That's a word that he used. That's really amazing.
It was to B.N.K. Sharma. So he wrote a book on history of Vaita philosophy. So, I just he has written a lot. So, in fact, if to really know comprehensively what Jaitirtha's contribution, so one has to read several chapters he devoted to Jaitirtha in his history of Vaita philosophy. So I encourage the readers to go through that one. It has a much more elaborate detail. I just gave 30,000 feet a glimpse of Jaitirtha.
Thank you very much, GVG. Yeah, so if Vayu had to come and on the Agnya of Vedavyasa and Vishnu, Vayu had to come down and re-establish what is the what is the Vedic, what is the meaning of the Vedas, what we do, Vayu has come. Then after Vayu, Sesha had to come to try and elaborate this more, and then Prahalada had to come to elaborate this even more, and we know Prahalada comes Vyasaraya, Vyasatirtha, and also as Raghavendra Tirtha they come. So that way, without them, for those of us who have been to that Malkhed, I would, if some of you have not been, I would strongly urge you to go to Malkheda, where Jayatirtha's Brindavana is, and then please go to Yeragoda. It is about an hour and a half, 2 hours drive into Yeragoda, and then please spend a day, if you can, in the Yeragoda hill, in the Yeragoda mountain and his cave and so on. And Prabhanjanacharya always reminds us, in the current day, we have computers, we have AI, you can use ChatGPT, and you can generate all the scripts and the figures and everything else. You will have light and everything to do. But in Jayatirtha's time, he sat in a cave with one deepa and eating jawar millet as food, and with one deepa he wrote all the works. And Prabhanjanacharya always reminds us, such is the greatness of Jayatirtha, that despite no facilities he did magnum opus. So may we all spend time thinking about Jayatirtha, read about his works. Nyaya Sudha, I just wanted to remind folks that B.N.K. Sharma, there are 3 volumes of Nyaya Sudha work of B.N.K. Sharma, and it's a very, very interesting, very readable way of looking at Nyaya Sudha. But of course, Nyaya Sudha is for the real scholars who become Sudha Pandits and so on. But for mundane folks like us, we just need to see what the direction that Jayatirtha is giving. And on that note, I was going to hand over to Neetaji to take us through the next chapter and close today's session.
Just before that, just very quickly, Pratibhaji, you had one shloka about Sri Jayatirtha, if you can just chant that, and then I'll quickly mention.
Thank you, Neetaji. Yasya va kamadhenurna kamitartha prayachati sevetam jaya yogendra kama bhanachidam sada. Says, I forever serve that supreme Jayatirtha, whose words act like Kamadhenu that grants all desires, prayers, and righteous wishes, and who cuts off the afflictions of arrows of worldly desires. Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you, Pratibhaji. So thank you, everyone. So let's just, I'll just briefly go to the, one second. So, yeah. So we'll be doing chapter 12 from next time in Gita Chinthana. So that is Bhakti Yoga. And I would like to thank all the volunteers who are helping out, Pratibhaji, Veenaji, and Shobha Srinivasanji. So, and we'll be discussing about Bhakti, the path to liberation, ways to reach Lord, and characteristics of the ideal devotee. So, yeah, please contribute again. We'll try and make it an interactive session. With that, I will end my session. Krishna, back over to you, Mats.
Thank you very much, Neetaji. Wonderful, wonderful session. Again, it's 2 hours, and 2 hours just flew. We don't know how 2 hours just ran. We lost track of time. So very, very beautiful session. Lots of things that we all learned. So I really wanted to thank Prakashji and Neetaji for a lot of background work in getting all the slides together. Venkiji and GVG and all other satsangis who, nipped in, chipped in with all sorts of challenging questions to make it as interactive as possible. The whole idea of having an interactive session is so with this exchange of thoughts, we all learn something new and then try and apply this in our daily life. So on that note, thank you so much, Neetaji and Prakashji, for a wonderful session. So we carry on with the Aitareya Upanishad Chinthana next Sunday, where we are dealing with the 5th Kanda, and we will tackle the 5th Kanda of Aitareya Upanishad from next Sunday. So on that note, Anandji, would you like to say Om and close today's session?
Sure, yeah. Om.
Yes, thank you everyone, and stay safe. See you next Sunday again. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.